Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Macy Raff. I'm the marketing manager here at Krannich Solar USA, and we also have Ben and Carolyn with SolarEdge today for our webinar. Before diving into the webinar, I just wanted to give you guys a quick overview of Krannich Solar, especially for those that may not be as familiar with our company. And if at any point you guys do have any questions during this presentation, please feel free to use the chat box and we will get back to you with an answer throughout the webinar. So Krannich Solar is headquartered in Germany and was founded by Krannich. Since being founded, Krannich has expanded into 24 different countries around the world with the capability to ship over 100 countries. Krannich Solar has been a strong partner to PV installers since 1995 and offers everything that is required to begin and finish your solar installation. Our international purchasing power helped us build strong relationships with your favorite manufacturers, such as SolarEdge, to secure the best pricing and availability. With a growing market share, Krannich Solar is a privately owned and self-financed company that ranks among the leading solar wholesalers worldwide. Our experience in delivering solar products worldwide for the last 26 years has made us experts in our field. In 2005, Krannich expanded into the US with two main branches, one in California and one in New Jersey. Since then, we have increased our warehouse capabilities, and with our latest warehouses in Joliet, Illinois, and Sacramento, California, within the last 2 years. We are growing every day, so please keep an eye out for where we might be next, and let us know where you'd like to see us next. Our US team currently consists of over 60 employees that service the Americas and strive to offer the best services and options to our partners. Throughout the years, we have also grown our product portfolio to provide over 5. We have partnered with leading manufacturers worldwide to offer the best material for a project of any size. Whether it's an off-grid system, a 4-panel shingled roof system, or a megawatt flat roof, we have the products for you. Despite the constant shortages, Krannich partners with manufacturers around the world modules for every project. This way, no matter what the time of the year, no matter what kind of module you're looking for, we'll have it for you if it's residential, commercial. And then here's just a quick overview of our inverters. We have microinverters, string inverters, and of course your favorite SolarEdge, where we'll have their complete product line between residential, commercial, storage. And some of the mounting systems that we carry, whether it's for a residential roof or a commercial flat roof, metal roof, ground mount system. We have those racking for you. And of course, some of our storage options that we have compatible with most of our inverters offerings as well. Now, working with Krannich Solar means you'll never have to work alone. With our streamlined ordering process, each customer at Krannich receives a dedicated sales rep to walk them through each step of the ordering process, from project design to on-site delivery. One of our services include our online shop. All customers can have access to our entire product range with lead times and availability from the comfort of their desk. This shop is accessible 24/7 and is preloaded with your own customized pricing to save you some time in the ordering process. Online shop users also have access to exclusive promotions that are available only through our web shop. If you don't already have an account, visit our website to register or email me after the webinar to get started. We've also partnered with some of the leading financing companies throughout the US to continue to support you through all phases of your project. When you're ready to order, just let your Krannich sales representative know that you need financing, and they will get you in touch with a program that is best suited for your needs. Whether it's a residential project or a large commercial project, we've got you covered. And finally, since the solar industry is always changing and innovating, at Krannich we do our best to make sure that you know about the latest products and technologies available. We team up with industry leaders and seasoned professionals, such as Ben and Carolyn from SolarEdge, to train you firsthand on everything you need to know, and it will always be for free. Even if you do need a an access credit to continue racking those up, you'll just let us know, and we'll make sure to get a webinar ready for you where you can continue to earn those. And this concludes my portion of the webinar. Here's our contact information on the screen, and we will be sharing this again later on throughout the webinar if you need it. But with that said, I'm going to go ahead and pass it along to Ben and Carolyn from SolarEdge to give you guys what you really came here for.
Okay, hopefully everybody. Yeah, can you see my screen?
Yep, looks good here.
Awesome. Carolyn's all yours.
I should be unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Beautiful. This is Carolyn Humphreys. Thank you so much. I appreciate that lovely introduction. Thanks, Ben. We are going to be thinking gig or thinking big with large scale PV today, brought to you by myself and my coworker, Ben Frank. Our national director covers C&I for the US and actually all of North America. And I cover PV. Ben, I don't seem to be advancing. If you could lend a hand, that would be wonderful. There you go. Fantastic. Oh, such a pretty face. There's Ben, and there I am. And I cover the East for all things commercial industrial. Ben, I'm going to need you to advance them for me. So sorry. So the agenda today is that we're going to talk about some of our numbers because we're still growing rapidly. So those numbers keep changing, and some of you may be new to SolarEdge and not be aware of our position in the market. We're going to talk about our global manufacturing capabilities along with some R&D, our commercial solutions today, and then what's on the horizon. We're pretty excited to be launching the SE120 kW with a new topology. The Advantage program is also an exciting and new approach, along with some roadmap resources and finally some Q&A. So the first number to dig into, people really bandy about number one, and I think it's just really important to qualify that. Exactly what do we mean? We mean globally by revenue. SolarEdge is surprising to many that we are the #1 inverter manufacturer in the world. We have a revenue for Q4 of 358 million, but if you look back to 2020 as the year in its entirety, it was 1.4 billion. Almost 1.5. We have 22.4 gigawatts of systems nationwide. I think that's a surprise to many as well. We're in 28 countries, but we ship to 130. We have over 65 million optimizers and almost 2 million monitored systems worldwide. And the employee group just keeps growing, and we're at nearly 3,200 people today around the world. Lots of patents awarded, those 363 with 355 on the way. And let's talk about what's coming up next. Ben, are you able to start this video for us? Yeah, this is a great video. You'll get to see our fearless leader, Zivi Landau, and this is a new facility in Israel called Sela 2, which will be the model for all of our manufacturing facilities moving forward. And hopefully we can share a quick video.
The events of this year have proven, not only for SolarEdge, but for us all, that this industry is mature and can service the market even in extremely challenging times. Smart energy, and solar in particular, have proven to be an excellent investment for home and business owners. And I believe that the demand for solar in a climate and world where backup and grid independence is growing in importance will continue to accelerate. We jointly have a lot to be proud of and a lot to look forward to. In fact, I believe, as early signs in Europe indicate, that investments in solar PV, including storage, all around the world will be one of the key drivers for economic recovery in 2021 and beyond. I'm speaking to you here from Sela 1, our brand new automated manufacturing facility in the northern part of Israel on the outskirts of Nazareth. Here, we are producing inverters and power optimizers with cutting-edge automated production lines, enabling us to ensure high-quality new products will be delivered to you faster and tariff-free. Sella One is an example of our commitment to driving adoption of renewable energy globally.
Well, thank you, Ben. I appreciate that. And that's Evie at our headquarters in Israel. And as you can see, we have a new manufacturing facility there. Also, we continue to manufacture in China and Hungary, and newly Vietnam. Our acquisitions is our manufacturing capability in Korea, and our R&D took place in Israel, but we also have R&D in Bulgaria and more recently in California, and again with our acquisitions in Korea and Italy, where our newly our battery facilities are, which we're looking very, very much forward to our storage capabilities on the C&I side. We recently are rolling out a battery on the residential side. And I think I'm still struggling to advance them. Great, thank you. So what is the SolarEdge solution? For anybody who's new to us, I kind of like to start at the beginning that what we essentially have done, it's a unique technology where we, from a theoretical sense, tore an inverter in half. And the optimizer and the inverter are two parts of a single solution. So they don't function independently as do some other folks' technology, which is why I say ours is unique. What this allows us to do is create more energy. And that's, I think, what we're best known for, certainly by large scale C&I long-term asset owners. That would probably be the most critical thing that comes to mind. But equally interesting is our flexible design, which makes it a lot easier to save money on balance of system with our much longer string lengths. You can use on a single string multiple azimuths, meaning they can face different directions. They can be at different tilts on the same string. And the shade impact only affects the modules that are actually being shaded, which again, no one else can say. Our enhanced safety we've always been renowned for that because we've always met code compliance with rapid shutdown technology. That is not new to us. That's not something we had to scramble to catch up with. We have something we call safe DC technology. When the optimizers lose signal with the inverters, they automatically shut the modules down to 1 volt safe DC. This not only makes us code compliant with passcode, but 2017 and 2020 as well. The redesign on the fly is because if you do run into a situation on a roof, say there's AC equipment that was replaced, since the time that you looked at that roof and the time that installers arrived, if you have a traditional system, you're going to need to stop and redesign the system because strings need to be the same length. But with SolarEdge, because of our flexibility, those modules can be moved to another location, which keeps things from stopping and keeps people happy. And so that design flexibility is really nice at that particular moment in time. Module level data and performance data is invaluable. If you talk to asset owners and O&M managers, they'll point out that once you can see all of that, at first it might be a little overwhelming, but ultimately it's really hard to go back and not see that anymore and be able to really dig into like exactly, you can see a blown bypass diode or a fault and know exactly where it is. The optimizer line has been, we're trying to avoid having too many SKUs. So it's really ranging from the P800 all the way up to an 1100 that's about to be released for the new higher wattage modules. There's an M1600, which is still a 4-to-1 solution, but it won't accommodate really high modules, and you want to be thoughtful about how you're configuring it. Our inverters range from 9 kW all the way up to now 120, a brand new release of the 120 for ground mounts, which we'll talk about a little bit more. And those are the two components that allow you to create a solution really like no other. And we're grid interactive. We have a very unusual warranty with those optimizers, which represent about 70% of the system cost. They have a 25-year warranty, and you can certainly extend the inverter warranty on the inverter, which is only about 30% of the cost, very inexpensively to year 20. And their monitoring platform provides a lifetime of free data hosting, which is another lovely expense to be able to avoid. Now, I probably should have talked about this before, but the way to think about us is really by comparing us probably to a traditional string or central inverter. That this older technology, it just has some inherent limitations. I've been in solar for 15 years, so I'm very grateful to them for all of the years that I use them. But what they do by just the nature of the technology is it limits energy production. And the reason the energy production is limited is that if you string modules in series, the entire string is limited by the lowest performing module in the series. That's just physics. That's how it works. And so if one module is shaded, or let's say one module just gets, you know, a lot more dirt. Let's say there's some friends flying overhead, whatever the case may be, sometimes soiling is very uneven. And what that does is that means that that single module has limited the energy production for that entire string. So even with multiple PowerPoint tracking, you're still being limited by the string. That doesn't change. So we can produce more energy because we put optimizers on those modules, which allow them to buck and boost and create a fixed string voltage of 850 volts. And really what that means is those modules are helping out their friends, and you're going to get the maximum amount of energy that that system can produce. And that additional production is going to be additional revenue. So long-term asset owners are particularly fond of our technology. They have a less flexible design because, again, you have to have all of your strings have to be identical length. I remember having to think about everything in multiples when I was a system designer back in 07, and they must face the same direction, and they must have the same pitch, and all of the modules must be the same wattage. And again, these aren't things that we thought of as limitations. We thought of these as just reality, because this is the case for every string inverter and every central inverter. These are the rules that you just had to follow. So, and you had to really avoid shade, because that shaded module was going to hurt your production for the entire string. SolarEdge allows you to literally just forget about all of that. You do have some design parameters, but they're very broad, and it gives you a tremendous amount of flexibility. And I think we already covered the unforeseen redesigns, right? When you are out in the field, the last thing you need is to have a situation where suddenly you can't fit modules where you thought you were going to put modules. And with SolarEdge, you know, moving those modules just isn't a big deal. And that's great for the people out day of the install. For the folks that are actually taking this project after it's completed, your asset managers, your O&M providers, they love the fact that, you know, you can see what the modules are doing. And with a traditional inverter or a central inverter, unless you're adding an optimizer, an actual optimizing optimizer, not a rapid shutdown box, you know, you have no module level monitoring. And if you do, even if you do have one of those, it's an optimizer, you're going to be paying for that. That's intrinsic to our technology. So the amount of performance data we can provide is unparalleled. The thing I usually talk about first, but quite honestly, it's hard to compete with more energy production, is the safety and code compliance. And there are other ways to do it, but you're taking different technologies and having to put them together. And ours is just inherent. It's what we've always done. It's what we'll always do. And most people would prefer, I just had somebody say yesterday, I really don't like working with high voltage. He hadn't put in another system in a few years, and he said it was actually pretty unnerving to have it. I heard an application engineer once describe it as an uncontained energy source. Unless you put a blanket over modules, they are high voltage, and that isn't the case for SolarEdge. And I think that peace of mind is really hard to overstate. So moving to why we win commercial rooftops. And because on the roof you have code compliance, safety actually comes first. And we've done a really nice job of maintaining that safety advantage. It's not only our safe DC technology, but we also have some additional capabilities when it comes to, because it's an integrated solution, we're able to detect things and see things that other folks can't, because again, you have all that module visibility. So the more production I already mentioned, it produces more revenue. And at the end of the day, you know, I'm mission driven, so I love that we're doing better things for the planet. But if people don't make the revenue that they anticipated making, you know, that's what allows people to continue to invest, and you're protecting your investment by getting more production out of the very same system. With the inverter only being about 10% of the system cost, to make sure that you are producing the most production possible makes a lot of sense. One of the things we don't even take into consideration when we do comparative analyses is that we can make larger systems often, right? Because that module that gets a little bit of shade isn't pulling down the whole string. You can put modules where you wouldn't typically put more modules. That counts on the roof. It also counts on the ground. You still have tree lines. You know, you still have realities on the ground, closing down inter-row spacing. You know, for instance, on the roof or the ground. But those larger systems on the roof are even more important for most people who are thinking about roof versus the ground. It's definitely the lowest cost of code compliance, because other solutions, if you're going to meet code, you're going to have to add equipment. And once you do that, we're actually more cost effective. The flexible design I already pointed out is really great, but it also means that you can put your inverters anywhere. Often to meet code, people are having to keep the inverters on the roof. What we can do is we can actually put them on the ground where you can easily access them without disturbing the folks, you know, that would need to give you access to the roof, without the hassle of getting on the roof. And that can be really, really nice. People are often locating them on the roof at first because they don't even realize they can put them on the ground now. And that lowers your balance of system costs as well, to have those, you know, those long strings and that flexibility, and adding those panels to get that bigger system where you would have put an inverter otherwise. Serious situational savings. So we're always a better solution on the roof, but some sites mean that we're just like, it's an incredible divide at times. You know, the worse the site, the more shade, the more impediments, the more challenging it is, the more we shine, which is exciting. And what it also means is sometimes a project that the numbers really didn't pencil with a competitor, you can go back and look at some of those projects, because with SolarEdge they might, and they often do. Thanks, Ben. I'm sorry you have to click for me. I'm not sure why mine's not working. Super appreciate it. So I get super excited about the 120. It's been a while in the making. We were a little bit delayed because we wanted to. We continue to get feedback, and our products are really developed by our customers. We have a product advisory board of brilliant engineers who are so kind to give us their time and help us make a better product. Of course, they always tell me when I thank them that they're very self-interested because they want these new features that they've asked for, and I think the engineers have really delivered. So our modular design, which we already had a modular design, but it's become even more so with our previous generation, current generation of the 100. You have a primary and 2 secondaries, whereas with the 120, you're going to have 3 identical units called synergy units. And what's really nice is they're even lighter weight, more power and less weight. So they've outdone themselves to make this something that two installers can lift and install without any kind of additional equipment necessary. And that's a huge advantage. We have 150% DC oversizing. I know we're just catching up, but that 1.5 is now applies to all of our inverters, including the 120. Our enhanced safety, I know we were already super safe, but we have built-in temperature sensors now, which is super exciting on the on the AC and DC, terminals. We're able to sense anything heating up, and it will send automatic alerts so that you can investigate before there's a problem. Integrated nighttime PID. I come from the module world, so this is really exciting to me. Potential induced degradation is real. It's something that, again, people don't talk about a lot because it's been something we've just always had to accept, like it or not. It was just a part, it's physics, right? And now we have a nighttime rectifier that without any additional expense to you, we're able to rectify PID. So that's very exciting. Built-in type 2 AC and DC surge protection. So everybody has their code surge protection on the AC side, but what we've done is we've added additional surge protection on the AC and the DC side that is field replaceable and monitored. So if there is a lightning strike or something, there's a surge, you will be notified, and then you can go out and replace it. So that's also I think it's something worth talking about. Streamlined and unique PV site pre-commissioning. This is really interesting. You don't have energy to the site yet. You can take this battery pack and you can plug it in and you can pre-commission. So you'll be able to see everything, so that day of commissioning, everything runs so smoothly. And this is the one I think that was the biggest surprise, really. That's quite a capability. And I'm going to hand it over here mid-slide to our friend Ben Frank, because I don't have a lot to say about supporting 3-wire connection. I'm going to count on Ben to explain it as things get a little bit more technical. So Ben, you still with me?
I am. Thank you,
Awesome.
Carolyn. So as Carolyn said, we're all super excited about the new 120K inverter. And one of the things that's different compared to the existing Synergy that's been in the market for a number of years is we can now support 3-wire connection. So previous inverter, you required to have a neutral for a 4-wire connection, the 3 phases plus a neutral. And now we no longer require the neutral. And in addition to that, besides a Y configuration, we now also support Delta configuration. So very excited about that. The initial release of the 120 is really geared towards ground mounts. Down the road, we're expecting in Q3 to release the rooftop version. So the initial version will have single DC input for remote combining for those large ground mounts or medium to large size ground mounts. And the other very key point here, which is again different from the existing Synergy platform, is now we could now support aluminum cable or aluminum wiring on the AC side with cables and lugs up to 4-aught size. So this is what it looks like. You saw it on the previous slide. This is a little bit of a closer view of the inverter. So as Carolyn mentioned, you have the Synergy units. They're all identical. And this will be really important from an O&M point of view as we come out with the different models over the next quarter. There'll be 208 model, there'll be the rooftop model. They'll all use the same Synergy unit. So that will make it very, very easy for our distribution partner like Krannich and all of you customers who are deploying this platform to have a single Synergy unit. And then of course, what changes from Synergy inverter to inverter will be the Synergy manager. And that's the unit that's on the bottom. And everything comes pre-connectorized like you see it here. The connections, if you start from the left side to the right, this is your DC connections, your positive and negative cable. That goes to the back of the Synergy unit, Synergy manager. This is your communication cable. And then the larger one is your AC cable. So you still have 3 inverter engines. And what it means is there's a couple of advantages of this approach. As opposed to like a monolithic inverter or a string inverter or a central inverter. that you have more uptime capability, right? So if there is an issue and one of the engines goes down, in this case, you lose 40 kilowatts as opposed to losing, 125 or 150 kilowatts, depending on the inverter that you're using on your project. So that's the advantage. The other advantage from an installation point of view is the ability to install this without any special lifts. This is basically a two-person job. The heaviest unit is the Synergy unit, or this inverter, and it weighs about 70 pounds. So that's actually about a 20-25% weight reduction over the previous inverter, and it's 20% more power. So we made some great strides in terms of the packaging. It's about the same physical size as, if you have used us on our Synergy 100, where you have your secondary units, it's physically about the same size as that, although 20% lighter, 20% more power. The other neat thing about the Synergy Manager, or this platform, is that all of your connections are in the Synergy Manager. So as you could see, the Synergy unit, yes, there is a faceplate on it, but there is no reason to go into the inverter whatsoever. So your AC connections, your DC connections, and your communications connections are all made inside the Synergy Manager. And that even includes if you use a SolarEdge cell modem card, all of that would get plugged into the Synergy Manager. So we really tried to simplify the inverter from an installation point of view, and also from a configuration point of view. So if we look at the benefits of this inverter platform that we're transitioning to over the next few quarters, and we've literally released this to the market this past week, the 120K, again focused on ground mount initially. So here are the four, I would say, key takeaways that you should think of when you're looking at projects. Maximizing system performance. I think we talked about that. Carolyn talked about the production capability of the SolarEdge platform. In this case, you're going to reduce the number of inverters by 20%, right, versus our previous Synergy platform. Also the oversizing. So this inverter coming out of the box now has the ability to go to 150% oversizing without any waivers. Now I should stop there, and I should just put a caveat that even the existing inverters on the 480 side, anything above 30 kilowatt 480 SolarEdge inverter is the same thing. You could go to 150%, you no longer require a waiver. And on the 208 side, anything above the 14.4 kilowatt, you can go to 150% with no waiver. PID rectifier, Carolyn talked about that. Very neat feature, built in. There are PID external rectifiers on the market that you have to pay for, configure, install if you're concerned about PID issues with your modules. In this case, built in, no extra cost. Number two, on the installation, the on-time and lower cost side, the pre-commissioning capability. So this is the new feature that we added to the Synergy platform. Carolyn did mention it. I know of many examples where our customers have had to wait to turn up a system, to commission a system, because the grid was not available yet, right? For whatever reason, and this happens on so many commercial projects, the utility is not ready, and there's nothing you could do. Your job comes to a standstill. You got to wait till they bring grid, and then you could start the commissioning. So this was a very simple process. You actually buy an external battery pack, which can be purchased on Amazon, and we'll give direction on that. It's a very simple approach. You plug it into, there's a port, a USB port on the Synergy Manager, and then you're able to go through the whole setup process of pairing and commissioning the optimizers and the inverter. So when grid is available, hopefully not too long down the road, but when it is available, all the commissioning is done. You know that there's no extra step that's required. Now you're just turning up and finishing off your site. We will have an automated validation and reporting capability coming out of the monitoring portal. That's a little bit down the road, expecting Q3 for that, but that will also further simplify the commissioning process. The enhanced safety, you know, I think the word I like to use with this inverter is robustness, right? We've done a lot of things on this inverter. We've learned a lot of things over the last, you know, 6-7 years in the commercial space. And we've added a lot of capability, like the surge protection that Carolyn mentioned on the AC side, the DC side, as well as on the communication side. So that's now standard in the inverter. It's not an option. It's already baked in. And then the thermal sensors, which is something I think is, you know, really, you know, amazing feature, that we will now constantly monitor the temperature of the DC and AC terminals. So if there's anything that looks alarming, then, you know, a message will be sent so that somebody will take a look at it. And, you know, typically it's a torquing issue, but at least we will, you know, avert anything really bad that could happen as a result of overheating connections. Number 4, simple and easy installation. I talked about that. Modular approach, lightweight, you know, 2-person job. You know, you can almost argue a single person can do it as well. And the Synergy Manager, I think I mentioned the Synergy unit is about 70 pounds. The Synergy Manager is just under 40 pounds, 39 point something pounds. And then because of the modular approach, definitely higher system uptime. So I talked a little about setup, mentioned it on the previous slide. So that's the process that we use. As you saw, if you're not familiar with SolarEdge, we don't have any screen on the inverter, right? So previous generations, if we go back about 2-3 years ago, you would use a screen and, you know, kind of I call it almost like 1990s approach, where you have this alphanumeric screen and you go through all the different screens to do the configuration that you want. Now everybody's got a smartphone, whether you're an Android or iPhone fan. We have an app for both. You do all of the activation, configuration, firmware updates for the inverter. Everything happens through the SID app. You have local Wi-Fi that comes out of the inverter. You just connect your smartphone and you follow through the steps. Very easy to see the parameters and the performance just scrolling through your cell phone. So that's our SID app. That's all SolarEdge inverters, not just this one. Everything we've made for approximately 2 or 3 years now have been using SID app. So switching gears a little bit and talking about not just the technical features, but the, you know, call it the LCOE, and you know, you heard Carolyn talk about extra production. We talked about all the benefits that the 120K and actually all SolarEdge inverters bring to the market. But here I want to give a very specific example of an analysis that we did for a customer. It's a project up in the Northwest. It's a 3.4 megawatt project using 435 watt bifacial modules. And so we have modeled it with 120 kilowatt with our new P950 optimizers. And we compared it to a, you know, traditional or legacy 125 kilowatt, 1500 volt inverter. And you could see using PV-Syst, we're able to do some pretty precise modeling. And, you know, this is coming out of PV-Syst. The bottom line is year 1, we produce 2% more energy. And year 20, because of module degradation dispersion, this is something that comes out of, this is a modeling feature in PV-Syst, we were close to 6% more energy. So on average, throughout the life of this project, we will produce 4% more energy per year. And it's very important to, you know, the reason we chose this project is because there's no shading. There's all the modules are pointed in the same direction, and there's still some extra percentage that it's kind of tough to model, but because of bifacials, that's a excellent fit for SolarEdge. Anything that could create additional module mismatch, that's where SolarEdge literally shines. So on that same project, so on the previous slide, we talked about the revenue benefit for the system owner. Now we'll switch gears a little bit and talk about the balance of system. So if you're an EPC and you're actually building these projects, or you're hiring a subcontractor to build these projects, you'll be able to see the savings that we'll be able to bring to the table, despite it being up against a 1500 volt inverter. We're still a 1000 volt inverter, but the reality is we're still longer strings, right? So because of the fixed string voltage architecture with the optimizers bucking and boosting, we end up getting some very, very long strings. We're talking strings of 40 modules plus, depending on the module size, of course, and which optimizer you're using. In this case, it was the P950, but again, we're talking 40 plus modules per string versus somewhere in the range of 24, 25 with a 1500 volt inverter. And as a result of that, we generally see a lot of savings on the DC side. If you have longer strings, you have fewer strings. Fewer strings means less home runs back to the inverter, and therefore you're saving all of that material and the labor, of course, to install those wires. So I think this project, when you actually look at the number of feet of wire that we're saving, it was somewhere in the order of 8 miles of wire, so 40, 50,000 feet or more of wire that were saved. So I thought it was a good good example of showing the benefit of using SolarEdge on ground mount projects. So let's moving ahead, looking at the agenda. Carolyn had mentioned one of the topics we'll talk about is a new program called Advantage. And this is something that we introduced to the market pretty recently. We trialed it throughout 2020. Probably not a good year to trial anything, but we did bring it to the market last year. And really what it is it's a peace of mind program to focus on the optimizer. Okay, and there's always a lot of questions about optimizer uptime or downtime, and it's something that's different, right? If you look at us versus legacy inverters, we have an optimizer, so it can create concern. So to mitigate that concern, or to take that concern off the table, we created this Advantage program, and basically what it means is we will provide lost production as well as compensation for truck roll for any optimizer that fails over approximately a 2-year period, right? Our studies have shown, you build a project, usually the initial year or 2, or sometimes less, 6 months, you kind of work out the bugs on the whole system and the install, and then things get to a nice steady state scenario. So we're going to cover the first 2 to 2.5 years of optimizer downtime, again, lost production compensation, and truck roll reimbursement. So the only thing that we request is we need to know about the project in advance. You have some pretty straightforward paperwork to fill out, and you work that through your SolarEdge salesperson. Request that you want to add your project to the Advantage plan. And it's actually the monitoring portal will automatically manage and monitor any failed optimizers. So there's nothing that's manual that has to be done by either yourself or even SolarEdge. Obviously, we're monitoring everything to begin with through our monitoring portal, and then at the end of every 6-month period, you would get a report. And you would see, here's how much lost production there was. You would send SolarEdge an invoice, and then you'd go out and have that one truck roll, right? So instead of oftentimes we kind of implore our customers, like, do not roll a truck every time there's a bad optimizer. It's much better to wait until you have, a 6-month period go by and roll the truck at that time. So that's the Advantage program. Again, you must register it before it is commissioned. So simple paperwork to fill out. And in addition to that, the only other caveat is the site has to be above 100 kilowatts. So wanted to share that on the Advantage program. Switching gears now to the commercial roadmap. So this covers really all of the commercial 3-phase inverters that we have, the current offering as well as the new offerings. So you can see the current offering from 9 kilowatt, 14.4 at 208. We have the 20K, the 30K, and the 33.3K at 480 volts. You can see the dimensions and the ratios that we had offered. And the new offering, this has been released to the market, so definitely call Krannich to get pricing on that. You have the 17.3 at 208, and you have the 40 kilowatt at 480. Oh, and there's the weight. So you can see it was 100 pounds. I mentioned 20% before. Apparently, I got to brush up on my math. It's actually 30% lighter than before. So we're actually at 70 pounds. So those are kind of the standalone inverters for your smaller projects. At the bottom, we talk about surge protection and the grid connection, right? So four wire plus the ground connection, and now we can do 4 wire or 3 wire. When we go to the Synergy platform, so today's offering, we have the 43.2, and you can see that's what it looks like. And then we also have the 66.6 and the 100K at 480 volts. There are the weights, and we're transitioning to the 50K 208, 80K 208, and the 120. So we have an asterisk there, the 50K and the 80K, as well as the rooftop version of the 120 have not been released yet, but they will be released in Q3. So, my advice is if you have projects that you're designing for, let's say, Q4 or late Q3, you could start looking at, 50K, 80K, and the 120, the new configuration for those applications. And 150% oversizing, we already talked about that. And then the last time, I'll just say it one more time, we can support 3 wire and Delta or Y AC configuration. So that concludes the the technical part of the presentation, as well as overview of the new products and some of the LCOE benefits. Now, having gone through that, we do have quite a few, we call them assets or resources that you could get from our website, right? So data sheets, install guides, we have brochures. So if you want to share it with your customers or your financier or your financial partners, we have lots of great tools on the website and the commercial section to find those. Here's some more resources, commercial offering for installers and EPCs. Very good overview of pretty much everything Carolyn and I just talked about, and a nice brochure. Same thing, the investor catalog, same concept, a little less technical focused. The investor catalog is really good for financiers because it focuses more on the financial benefits of using SolarEdge. We have fact sheets, a lot of projects that are shown on the website if you want to get an idea of what we've done in North America or rest of world. A lot of very interesting projects that are shown there. And then of course we have a bunch of North American case studies. This is something that we only recently started doing, so some really fascinating case studies of projects that our customers have shared with us, whether they're roof, ground, carports, or floating, as you can see over here. So in summary, best of both worlds architecture. I mean, I think the trend of our commercial business has, it just exploded. People are really jumping on that hybrid solution where we're optimizing commercial projects, again, whether they're roof, carport, or ground mount. And why? Why? Because we produce more energy, right? It's physics. We're putting all of those MPPTs out at the module level, and as a result of it, we just produce more energy. The other, design flexibility, longer strings resulting in balanced system costs, savings, and larger systems, right? Because we're more tolerant to things like shade and weird angles and orientations or undulating grounds for ground mounts. We do see larger installs than our competition. Of course, you can't talk about SolarEdge without mentioning safety. Safety is our DNA. Long before NEC came out with the 2014 rapid shutdown requirements, SolarEdge was designed with safety in mind. And then, of course, the module level monitoring gives us that lower O&M capability, as well as the higher system uptime. So with that, thank you so much for everybody that hung in there. We still have some time to open it up for any questions. And probably the best way, because of the number of attendees, I would suggest typing in your questions in the question box in GoToMeeting. And for the next 8 or 10 minutes or so, we'll answer as many questions as we can. So I do see a question.